your sister?
Contemplation.
Pete!
What's so bad about feeling good? Stars George Pt8 and Mary Tyler Moore. A chirp.
I'm bubbling over.
Turned hippie, but lovely. And a very special, may we say, guest star, a toucan named Amigo. New York is its normal, snarling, bickering, shouting self. When suddenly a virus brought in by Amigo infects the city. The symptom? Euphoria. That makes people think good, act good, feel good. What's so bad about feeling good? You'd be amazed.
I have asked the World Health Organization of the United Nations to instruct every port of entry in every country to quarantine all passengers from the United States. It is our aim, therefore.
The latest figures show that marriage licenses are running 912% above average.
28,000 cops and you can't catch one lousy bird.
The great manhunt for public enemy number one, Amigo.
Pete, they'll kill him. They want his brain.
Don't worry, amigo.
We gotta get him out of here.
Come on.
Now watch yourself on the stairs. Good afternoon, officer.
Huh?
Take it easy, lady. I got a car downstairs. Gandhi, maternity on the way down.
Well, that's not really necessary,
I'm
officer.
fine. I'm just fine.
Hospital, we're going up 5 minutes.
No problem.
Do you mind if I listen to the heartbeat?
You listen to me. Go tell the doctor that I shouldn't be here. This is a false pregnancy.
If that's a false pregnancy, I'm gonna flunk the course.
Call the doctor. I'm gonna faint.
Oh, come on. We run a check on you and your gang. One of them had a beard just like Castro. They all had some kind of a beard. How do you explain that?
We didn't shave.
Carry a smile, it all may turn out the way it should. Tell me what's so bad about feeling good.
John Lilly once put it this way: there are no limits at all to the human mind whatsoever, except those we impose on ourselves because of our beliefs. And those limits are also beliefs to be transcended. And that's a view that suggests that the possibilities of human transformation are virtually infinite. And we have no way of knowing the outer horizon of what it means to be human.
And really, to understand all this, everything, you have to go very, very deep into a study of history, consciousness, neurophysiology, everything. You have to be the supreme eclectic type of leaning, and you really have to be wanting to know who you are and what everything's about.
And the thing that you'll find when you go to sacred sites, if you're very humble about it, is that you are on a personal journey, and the sacred site will respond to you in a way that is appropriate only to you. The information is always what you are searching for. And it's the intent you give that energy that defines whether it is used for right action or not. And it is inside these sacred spaces that you will be reminded that you are a god, that you are a bright star.
So what you're trying to do is move through the course without ricocheting off walls or creating karma. You're trying to slide through things smoothly. How do you do that? It's called flowing. There's a technique that you can do that will allow you to touch some part of your inner being that has more knowledge than your conscious state does.
Let's do open discussion before we wrap up. I have kind of a different topic in mind. Craziest thoughts about your disease. You know what I mean. You know they're nuts, but they just keep popping into your head anyway.
I often wonder if I should have been born in another time. My name is Sherlock and I'm an addict.
Hi, Sherlock.
My senses are unusually, well, one could even say, unnaturally keen. And ours is an era of distraction. It's a punishing drumbeat of constant input. This cacophony which follows us into our homes and into our beds, and it seeps into our souls, for want of a better word. For a long time, there was only one poultice for my raw nerve endings, and that was copious drug use. So in my less productive moments, I'm given to wonder, if I'd just been born when it was a little quieter out there, would I have even become an addict in the first place? Might I have been more focused? A more fully realized person?
What, like ancient Greece?
You any idea what passed for dental care in the Hellenic era? No, I'd want some of the wonders of modernity. Just before everything got amplified.
Something like, what, 200 years ago?
Hey, Doc. Energy vibrations, what is it? I don't know. Telekinesis? What?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
You think it's getting out of hand?
Well, look, I was mad, all right? I was pissed off, and I'm not mad now, okay?
Good. I'll sound the all clear, call off the paratroopers. Jesus, George. Now, listen. You owe me a CAT scan. I want more blood. Mm-hmm. Also, you look like hell.
That's good. Doc, what's the matter with everybody? They won't give me a chance to explain anything. I look at them, and they look at me like I'm a green bug or something.
Give them some time, George.
Now, look, I have an idea. Now, you look at this. Now, look at this. Now, look at that. Now, I'm a big deal at the Harmon Library. I can take up to 30 books a night, okay? And I told them I'd be part of this. I said that I'd put out a table and pressure. Then I would sit there and could ask me questions. Meet George Malley. What do you think?
Yeah, like a circus attraction.
Oh, God, Doc, please. I could explain to them once and for all. I could share my ideas with them. And then I could get my life back together.
Come see me for that scan. Take it easy on sugar and salt, okay? And do like I told you all your life. Breathe in and out. Okay, George?
people like on the inside.
Inside most people, there's a feeling of being separate. Separated from everything.
And?
And they're not. They're part of absolutely everyone. And everything.
Everything? I'm part of this tree? Part of Zach barking over fences? You're telling me that I'm part of some fisherman in Italy on some ocean I've never even heard of? No, some guy sitting on death row. I'm part of him too?
You don't believe me?
It's hard to believe that. All of that.
Well, that's because you have this spot that you can't see past. My Grams and Gramps had it. A spot where they were taught they were disconnected from everything.
So that's what they'd see if they could? That they're connected?
And how beautiful they really are. And that there's no need to hide or lie. And that it's possible to talk to someone without any lies. With no sarcasms, no deceptions, no exaggerations. Or any of the things that people use to confuse the truth.
I don't know a single person who does that.
Hold out your hand. Put your fingers up.
Is that your heartbeat?
And yours?
Oh, this feels strange.
You're afraid someone will see us holding hands.
You're really nervous talking to me.
You don't think you're pretty enough.
You feel alone. You feel so alone.
Sometimes you just want to break out of yourself.
Your father. Your father hurt you a long time ago?
Hey, welcome. Andre Hodge, Infinite Potential Healing, Servant of Truth with you once more. Thank you as always for being with me and allowing me to be a part of your journey. I'm always grateful of whatever time you invest and concepts you may take away or not, or whatever you do. But it's more about the significance of you actually being into this sort of content, being a rare, pure source diamond amongst everything going on. So whatever may be going on in your life and that has brought about and been a catalyst for you to be here, I really honor you for everything that maybe no one else knows that you've had to battle and overcome and stuff. We've all got those unique menu variables, as I say in the pattern recognition video I did many years ago. The menu's unique but the outcome's common. So I really find it fascinating and inspiring interacting with people of all that they've had to endure and maybe going through and all that sort of stuff. So I am very optimistic about the potential of humanity, because if we've been grounded down to nothing and we've never even allowed ourselves to accept ourselves and tap into that and in spite of everything out there, power through and engage that. Just think how many people out there really truly have access to their potential. I know I don't. I'm on that relentless journey of my life to accumulate all that I am and integrate it and expand and go through the ups and downs of life and plateaus and stuff like that, to process a lot and look to go up the next ascendancy in my journey of awareness. And I'm sure if you're here, you do that yourself in your own life and stuff. So again, like, if anything I've contributed to the public in doing what I do, and you've taken on board and it's been an ally to you in finding that in you, it's an honor and a privilege, and I hope I've got a lot more good stuff to come, because I feel like I've had an interesting journey and stuff. This last year has been particularly fascinating. The last 3 or 4 months have been very, very potent. And so if you've hung in there with the brat down under, I was tempted to call myself Crocodile, Star-Lord, Wolverine, Aladdin Dundee again, and bring that card back. And but yeah, like I used to say about my naming myself that way a couple of years ago and stuff, because it's like we are that epic. And the thing is, appreciating in a humble foundation way of, there is some state that we can embrace and permeate through us that will be the antidote to everything and stuff. So yeah, I've been doing a lot of processing and appreciation and stuff, and I've been obviously pedal to the metal of me and my journey and getting out the other side of all this sort of stuff that's been going on. If you watch my last Amplify the Echoes Part 14, I put a lot together, and it's come over a lot of ingredients, say going back to GSF 32 and 33, and working out the earth was being effort to eject their soul and stuff, and having that dream that I mentioned when I was, playing catch up to trying to get out in front of a lot of stuff, but getting, say, my pure state, my best state, like glimpses of it, and having epic dreams and busting that what was going on back in many months ago now, April, May, and yeah, then working with the timelines and upgrading the astral and dreamtime realm in June a couple of times. So and these things, some of them are my own individual things, but then I'm collecting data and bring it back and working with other people. So I'm protecting the other people in a lot of what I say. And yeah, I don't know how it's been for you since about mid-June, but for me, my dream time and sleep has been a lot better and feeling a lot better in my body and stuff. And yeah, then done a lot since then, and having a lot of synchronicities, and I've offered me in the events of, say, what I've gone, that's brought out the synchronicities and stuff and interactions with people and stuff, and so there's a lot of ways to sort of experience them. But one of the things that has been a mainstay of my teachings and who I am for a very long time, and it's always a layer in everything I offer, is the emotional mastery aspect. And I haven't tapped into this series for a while. I've offered a lot over the years and stuff, and honestly everything I release is about emotional mastery. And thank you, Win. And I talk about how I was fortunate enough to go to meditation very early on, 2011 and stuff. I had 3 people in 2 days tell me about a particular teacher who was 99 at the time, and I was like, hello, I'm up for that, meeting a 99-year-old and stuff. And so I've talked about in the past, like the movie Cocoon, it was like going into this group with very elderly people, and I'm very tough on groups, but I love groups. I would love to go to groups and stuff, but obviously a lot has changed since 2011 to now and stuff, and working out a lot of the content that I've offered to reverse engineer all the stuff that's going on and that. And so the difference then versus now is it can't be really appreciated, right? But yeah, I was very fortunate to go to groups and and appreciate like veterans of meditation and stuff, and being in that group to really help accelerate sort of my ability to jump on that merry-go-ride of meditation sort of thing at a higher level, high operation of existence sort of thing. So the reason why I just bring up the meditation is to me it's like when I discover something and it's an improvement, it's like, why would I want to be anything other than that, right? So I'm just offering the mechanics of, a lot of people go to the meditation group as a metaphor, as just having an instance of it and then going back to their world in chaos and stuff and all that. For me, it was like, there was no logic of not living in meditation and stuff. So say meditation, if you appreciate it, is about emotional mastery. It's about observing what comes at you to nullify it and then negate it sort of thing. So emotional mastery to me is a bit like, it's appreciating why you need to go through things, but then there's an antidote sort of thing, right? And so if you go through something that might take you up or down, you know, there's two emotions, there's fear and love, and everything is a derivative of those two states, right? So I might have that emotional spiral thing next to me. Just as a reference, there's, you know, you can see all the derivatives of fear and the derivatives of love, those emotional states built on love. And I do want to do a love-fear sort of video at some point based on the emotions because of the mechanics of what goes on in the body. Bruce Lipton was the teacher of that, and when you're in a fear state, your blood and your nutrition goes to your extremities like fight or flight. So it's not in your sternum and in your organs for growth. It's in your peripheries like your arm, or to run or fight, you know. And so all the nourishment is outside of your vital organs sort of thing. So there's a cost of being in fear, and you know, this world how it is, most people, unfortunately, they don't even know they're in a fear state. Things like getting spooked and stuff like that. And then how I've got this concept that I haven't really talked about much recently, because talking about nutrition and malnourishment and stuff is, you know, I've got my Conscious Explorer Part 13 still up. I took most of that series down, but that foundation component in that is about Dr. Weston Price, and a lot of the nutrition, what we're told, is a setup for failure, right? And so I've got this concept called nutritional suffocation, where I might have this really cool image that I came across in the last few weeks about the positive emotions and the chemicals and hormones that are released in the body, like the happy, I forget what the image is, but it's probably next to me now. But there's a lot of hormones or things that our incredible body creates to actually allow us to have an experience, right? It releases a lot of these things that are created into drugs that a lot of people source from external. And I would invite you to appreciate, like, just knowing that our body has the ability to produce these chemicals, right? The nutritional suffocation for me is like we're being sort of set up for failure on the nutritional level, so our bodies don't even actually produce the precursors, like say if you have cholesterol and good fat sort of thing. The misconception is fat creates fat. It's not. Fat has nutrition in it. And I have a big issue about the calorie sort of crap that's going on, because to me, if you read the Sovereignty Declaration, there's a desire to get us all into a carbon footprint and manage the amount of foods that we eat and stuff. That is being set up right now, and all I'm doing is trying to prevent what's 3 or 4, 5 years down the track, right? Famine and population control is massive at the moment, right? And they're big programs that are in parallel to a lot, and a lot of people caught up in their stuff. It's all this stuff that I'm sort of saying here is a setup for failure. So most people are caught in a survival, and getting back to that nutritional suffocation thing, if we're, you know, there's a lot of effort to reduce the amount of protein that most people can eat at the moment. There's a projection of this is bad sort of thing, right? That we can't do that because it affects, say, the environment or whatever, and all that. And all those programs are being set up. If you go back to GSF 27, the big chess move video, the Swedish guy that I recommend going and watching, a lot of our world has been set up from that organization that he talks about in the 60s and stuff. And so a lot of the concepts like environmentalism came out of that sort of thing. And there's a lot of stuff I haven't released yet in influences and stuff like that. But what I'm just offering about the nutrition and the effect on our emotions, you know, like we can go in the sun, our body creates D3, right? If the sun is there, you know what I mean? There's all sorts of crap going on. But I would just offer, if we each individually have the courage to, you know, like they say that the YouTube and all that is bad. It's like, to me, it's we've had this real potent era that we've had access to so much information, and it's been there to be discovered and investigated, and society labels people that have the courage to step outside the narrative sort of thing, right? To keep people in that fear state of being judged by others sort of thing, right? But to me, I feel very privileged that to be in this era of having access to so much information, and the courage is to be self-actualized and take on things and apply them to your world and see what happens. And I think one of the variables that I want to offer that I know about me that has been a component to this is that, say I talk about that era, I was an IT engineer, and I would go into very stressful, demanding scenarios where there was an expectation of me to solve things and stuff. And, you know, there were people I was working with that were a lot better than me and stuff, but I just relished those times of being in a scenario that you could solve anything sort of thing. It was like the MJ game winner sort of thing. The thing is, it was our daily life. It wasn't anything extreme. It's extreme to people that don't exist in that very often, but if you live in it, it's just a natural way to be and execute. And so, say when I was dealing with computer programs that were vast and had a lot of influence and stuff, I think the really good thing about me of that era that I take away, of that logic sort of non-spiritual era of being very grounded and, you know, in the IT logic world, is that a lot of these programs and their operation came with instructions, all right? And the thing is, if you appreciate the unknown, going into the unknown, operating with a program that you never dealt with, going into the unknown, it's a constant. The key is they're being created with a set of constraints that ideally, like if, say, you charge 20 grand for a program that a big corporation operates with, then ideally they come with the manual that helps you run them and deal with challenges that come up and stuff. And so what I'm just getting to is that the consistent thing is, maybe I hadn't dealt with something as a constant, right? But trusting the mechanics of how things work, and there were instructions. You would have to go in and follow the instructions of something that you've never operated with. And so you would have to go into the unknown and trust something that you've never experienced and just follow it and execute and follow it to a T sort of thing, and then resolve what was going on, all right? And so I'm just offering that maybe you guys have had that sort of experience in your unique menu of your life that you can take away and then overlay with just the different data and scenarios now relative to exploring the unknown, all right? And so what I'm offering is that that's a really good emotional mastery of the mechanics of the unknown, of employing something in the past to relevant to now. And the constant thing that we're going to go through in life is the unknown is a constant, right? So that's where what I'm bringing that back to now is relative to, say, nutrition and coming across lectures of people that, and this is another thing I appreciated, the courage of someone to step up and challenge the paradigm and offer some new information. I just really honored them, and that's why I've really loved sharing the clips of these people and stuff, and I love offering their purity of their courage to share something that might go against the paradigm, which might bring about a lot of pushback, and then everyone goes through their uncertainty and all that sort of crap and stuff. But at the end of the day, like, it's just data, all right? And then you can tune into those things relative to the individual, what they went through, to provide that. And that's where I'm very transparent, because I just say what I go through and stuff to ideally shortcut the discernment of me and stuff, which has brought about all sorts of other stuff and that. And so, yeah, I was just putting all those sort of things together, where sometimes you have to have the courage to step into the unknown and do something that perhaps at this moment society isn't accepting. But once you do it and experience it, you feel the benefit of it, and you get that reference point of experience of the things in this world don't add up to what they're saying, but there is the information out there to follow and stuff, and it might be better for you, and you have to be the original, you know, go into the unknown and challenge everything and go against your contrarian view, right? I've offered that contrarian view image, and I might just show it. I might just get through this and not bring up all the images. It's a bit windy and stuff, but one of the things I've offered over the last year particularly is about the contrarian view and discernment and stuff, is employing that, because when you employ it, what you may be doing is actually challenging your very set in your way comfort emotional reference state relative to data and things like that. So I've actually invited you guys to discern me at a higher level, but then also to do it to everything out there, because I'm not exclusive to everything. I invite that, because if I'm putting crap out there, then I would rather it not be accepted. And, you know, I do take a lot of responsibility for what I offer and that. But I think using that sort of contrarian view mechanics has been an invitation to challenge your default emotional programming relative to stuff that most people don't even know, that the way they feel about things isn't actually organic to themselves. It's a program that's been instilled on them, that, you know, we all want to be accepted and things like that. But yeah, those sort of things. So the nutritional suffocation for me is a really big foundation thing, that if you're not actually eating right, it's going to be tough to produce those negation emotional states, which are an experience of your body releasing hormones and things like that. So if you just appreciate all that marriage of things to actually provide you with a experience, require the appreciation of all those components like nutrition, emotional mastery, knowing that you can actually choose an emotional state, alright? Because then what you can do, and this is, I've talked about my era and stuff like that. Emotional mastery was a very big component back in Emotional Mastery Part 1, Feeling is the Prayer, because like everyone, comfort breeds complacency and challenge breeds, when we're in challenge and crisis and stuff, it's a very high potent motivational state to reclaim that peace, alright? And so once you appreciate that the catalyst of the discovery might be the challenge or the chaos that you're going around to bring about a solution, then when you appreciate the mechanics, you can just shortcut and go to the solution, right? You don't need to go through the event to trigger that new level of comprehension in that. And then say what I sort of do, and I don't assume I'm perfect on this, but I love that mastery in any moment, right? Of realizing you don't need to go through an emotional state, because then you don't need to have the antidote to correct it. So if you go into fear and you release those hormones like cortisol or whatever it is, then you ideally have to produce the opposite to bring it back to balance. So why not just live in balance and harmony and not allow your body to go through these things? So the nutritional suffocation to me is when you have the abundance of the nutrition, then if you go into those reaction states, then you've got it to call on to master the physical body that you're having experience in. If you have an absence of the nutrition, and you look at society how it is, most people are nutritionally suffocated from my perspective. They've trusted things and experiencing life based on that, and so you wonder why people are crazy or having emotional reactions to stuff and that. And I have a compassion because it's like they're being set up for failure, but also you can try and tell these people or give them the right nutrition for them to have and stuff, and they won't do it, right? So it's just about appreciating all this and taking it all on board. And how do you employ it? How do you benefit from this awareness? And the way I do it is I integrate it, and then I look for the angles that I'm not willing to see, or just master the basics and all that sort of stuff, right? And just check all angles or let go of something, because there might be something in the unknown that's wanting to come in, and holding on to those sort of things, that it creates the prevention of that potential. And I'm relentless on my personal discovery, but I'm also relentless because I've learned that if I'm not vigilant, then hard lessons can come and stuff like that, and it's always this dance and marriage and stuff that's going on. So why am I offering all this? I feel, relative to potential people, that emotional mastery is a huge area that we all can appreciate and incorporate, and it's not really far out there sort of thing. It's a foundational sort of solid component that we all can launch from. And so by offering sort of this theme, and particularly right now with a lot of things going on in the world, right now where we are, like this is mid-September 2024, and so if you're watching this in the future, the events unfolding in the future that we have very in our face at the moment, they might not be relevant in the future. And what I'm going to offer is that the consistent thing that's going on in the world is that there's always this variable of uncertainty and chaos, and you know, those of us in this community can observe and appreciate what's going on to the rest of humanity and all that sort of stuff. And these things, as I said, the menu is unique, but the outcome's common. Well, to me, there's always going to be menu variables that are offered that trigger sort of emotional states and uncertainty and all that sort of stuff. But the consistent thing is that whatever is in our future at the time of this sort of thing, and what might be coming into the narratives and all that sort of stuff, they might be unique and they pass, but the consistent theme is that there's always going to be chaos and uncertainty and stuff. There's always going to be influences and all that sort of stuff. So what do we do about it? And so I just had this real appreciation of a lot of the wins that I've sort of had, and the videos I've offered in the last month, 3 months and stuff, of getting the mechanics right. I feel like really having massive awareness victories of acquiring what we know, all right? Coming out of extreme circumstances, uncertainty, a lot of real nasty stuff, and discovering what has been done to us to actually formulate an algorithm solution sort of mechanics, that realizing we are superior and all this sort of stuff. And so what I do appreciate is I've offered a lot of information that might be challenging emotionally and stuff, but I want to inspire you to realize that is there potential in our emotional states that we're not actually benefiting from? I think there always is, but I've also processed a lot of this, like integrating the victories that I feel I have achieved and been offering, and it's up for you to process and contemplate what I say and stuff and how that affects you, or you know, having the courage to change variables of past sort of assumptions in your conscious Tetris. You know, if a variable I offer is a truth that you've never heard and you don't know it's a truth, and you have to discern it and stuff, and then integrate it. And then the big thing that I feel, and it's the word I've offered a lot, it's about context. Once we have the context, the truth is very simple, and the navigation from it is quite elegant and simple. Like truth and authenticity are very efficient. Like the misguided falseness and lying and all that sort of stuff, it's very costly. There's repercussions for that. And so if the context are for you is correct, then ideally you might be seeing the world in a different way, but also you might be feeling insignificant to it, right? And what I want to do is work with that, okay? So this is going to be Emotional Mastery Part 8, and it's related to something really cool I discovered, because what I was doing is offering that I'm processing this always and contemplating, going for walks, trying to switch off and get distracted and not think about it. And I love those times when you get distracted, and then I feel in me, like back when I was an IT engineer, I'd do like 10 problems at once, and I'd focus on a problem until I got to sort of a point where I wasn't making progress, and then I would switch it up and go to another problem. So I'd be on this problem and getting nowhere, and then I'd just switch and go to something else. And then when I was working on this, then I'd get the solution for that and stuff. So I love doing multitasking and pushing hard but also easing off, or going to the gym, or just sleeping and resting and stuff. And so one of the things I always love doing is actually exploring teachers and stuff, and particularly revisiting teachings that I've observed many years ago, and with the new eyes, new perspectives and new wisdom that I've gained over that time, and revisiting them. So I've definitely been doing that. And just seeing what's out there. Like, the internet is fluid. Not everything is static. It doesn't stay there. But also new stuff gets revealed all the time. And so I've been doing that, and I came across some awesome teachings that actually I feel will be very, very beneficial. They're very, very elegant in their simplicity, but there's something that we can all do and all process and integrate into our lives, because I think I do it very well intuitively and naturally, but it's come out of extensive decades of employing my emotional mastery. Like, this even goes back to my 90s of working in Burger King, and I just appreciate, like, when I was 15, 16, the manager, who was freaking tough. Like, they were tough back then. They kicked your ass and stuff. I'd always get put on the toughest station at the most busy time, and it was always awesome to just like master it and work with a good team and stuff. And then I mentioned my IT days of going into stressful scenarios and all that sort of stuff. So and back in my IT days, like 10, 20 years ago, I wasn't anywhere near as good as what I am now. I was very insecure and stuff like that compared to now. So, but I always appreciated that in any moment we have a choice of how we react and how we take on the data of the events around us and stuff. And so the teachings that I came across, like, I've always offered those sort of things as variables, but I think the teachings in this release, and I think it's probably going to be 2 or 3, because I've already talked half an hour, I think, but because emotional mastery is such a significant thing, right? And with all the potency of our world at the moment, I think it's a really good theme to re-engage and offer a focus relative to the discoveries I've made the last few months, right? But I would just say, like, for me, it's always been a variable that I've probably not always known that I've done, but I've just the logic of a scenario, it doesn't help having an emotional reaction and insecurity and stuff. And so that sort of thing is a passive way of employing these things. By me offering sort of a teaching like this and that, it's allowing you to engage it in an active way. Like, it's really not something in the background, it's here. And to me, like, the passive employment is it doesn't have the potency of an active employment. And so putting all those things together, and I'm sure you, like I said, your menu of your life to be here at the start, you've got many things that you can reflect on in the past that you can take to now, and if you do it really brutally honestly of how you handle those events, you realize you probably weren't in emotional mastery. But that's all cool. That's experience is the key to wisdom. If you are brutally honest about yourself, and accept how you are, the key is it's not about feeling negative about yourself or anything. It's realizing you got more potential about the experience you had. Like, I talk about mistakes, right, and failures, and the key is being willing to try. And if you're willing to try and fail, you gain a lot more than the fear of not even getting involved and being stagnant, because inaction is a choice, and inaction has consequence. There might be times for inaction, absolutely. You don't cross a road, with a busy highway to get hit. But there's also times where you need to engage and you choose not to, and that doesn't actualize potential that you maybe had, right? And so, yeah, like what I'm wanting to do in this, it might turn into 3 episodes of this feeling is prayer theme that I'm going to offer. So the theme of this perhaps group of videos is how to transmute everything affecting us into a life force gift. All right? Because I came across some teachings that how that potentially can be an ally of observing your body, of how things affect us, but then employing your body tech in a different way to actually, instead of reacting to something, to actually transmuting into a benefit, right? And I think a lot of us do that. I know, say, when I was working in kitchens and stuff, and I know I do it, particularly the last 10, 15 years, is say a burn, all right? Just imagine you touch a hot stove or something like that, or a hot frying pan or something, and it burns you. The potency of that energy is very high, like the heat is an energy, all right? And when your skin touches it, it has a very small surface area that it's affecting, all right? And so that small area gets affected by a lot, and then the outcome is the change in state of burning you. But what I know I've done in the past is, and I don't recommend it or anything, but it's like, I know when I get those surprises, because you don't intentionally burn yourself, right? It might be reacting to an act, like just a lack of awareness of your movements that combine to create a burn, right? But I know in those reaction of those sudden moments, those shocks, I know that I can tune into, say, each of the region of that body. I don't say the cells and that, but I just like try and translate that very minute area that's affected to a large area and dissipate the energy. And I know if we're appreciating that we have the control over a body, there's a partnership with the body, but we're also in partnership. Like we're the driver, the body facilitates our journey in life and stuff. But what you can do is you can, that shock, that spooking, and I want to talk about spooking and that, you can actually spread that energy over that region of the body. So instead of like a tiny area, it could be like a, couple inches diameter, where the energy instantly gets transmuted to all those cells, and then it can go into your body for warmth. Your blood vessels are going and stuff like that. You can actually do that, and I know I've done that many times. But just imagine, you're not trying it, it's just you're reacting to the moment of how to handle that scenario. And I know I've done that because I talked about working in kitchen and washing dishes and stuff like that, doing a hard physical work of, like, working in a kitchen is like battlefield sort of thing. So what I might do, because I've gotten into this quite a bit, and I'll talk about it after, but I've got a really cool Greg Braden clip. Like, I've been going through that Divine Matrix lecture. It's an old one, but it's good. Like, I just love it. And it's all cool. Like, I found some awesome clips that I'd forgotten about and stuff. So I might offer this clip now because it's very cool relative to the world. And what I was going to do is at the start, but I might offer it now. It's just going to be very rich of many components. All right? So enjoy this clip, and I'll see you on the other side.
So the question, how much power do we really have to change our world, to change our lives, to change our bodies? How much power do you believe that we really have? The question that we're really asking is, who are we? Who are we? And this is the great mystery and the controversy in the language of science. Are we simply observers, passive observers in this universe, watching the world go by, or are we powerful creators? As our most cherished religious and spiritual traditions have always said? Are we actually powerful creators that have forgotten how to use our power? Well, this is the great question that has been asked by scientists for 400 years. When I was in school in the 1970s, 1960s, I was taught that the universe began a long time ago and that we have come along relatively recently and that we are essentially powerless specks of dust in the universe. And after we are gone, the universe will never know that we were here. That's what I was taught when I was in school. Does that sound familiar to you? That's one way of thinking. There is another way of thinking that says something very different. It says the universe began a long time ago. We have come along relatively recently. However, we are powerful creators that are changing our world and changing the universe as we live our lives. And this is the controversy of the scientists. Albert Einstein believed the first idea. Albert Einstein said, we live in a world which exists independently of us humans, which stands before us like a great eternal riddle, at least partially accessible to our inspection and thinking. It's very complex. What he's saying is, Albert Einstein believes that we will be lucky if we understand even a little bit of how the universe works, and that we are very insignificant. Okay. A colleague of Albert Einstein was alive during his time and is still alive today. His name is Professor John Wheeler, Princeton University physicist. He's still with us today. John Wheeler says completely the opposite. They studied in the same time, they had the same information, the same books, the same data, and they had very different opinions. Look at what John Wheeler says. John Wheeler says we could not even imagine a universe that did not contain us, because he says it is the act of us observing the universe that makes the universe as it is. He said it is the act of us observing the world around us. He said that we're part of a universe that is not finished yet. John Wheeler says the universe is incomplete. He says that we are tiny specks, tiny patches of the universe looking at itself and building itself in what he calls a participatory universe. Participatory. I like that word. It means that we are not controlling the universe. We are not imposing our will upon the universe. We are participating, co-creating. Does that mean anything to you when you see this? Let me ask you a question. Let's explore this idea just a little bit. I know that you all lie awake in bed at night, sleepless, because you're wondering why we have never found the smallest particle of matter, right? Or you lie awake in bed at night, sleepless, because you wonder why we've never found the edge of the universe, right? No, I do. The truth is that we may never find the smallest particle of matter. And we may never find the edge of the universe. Scientists build huge machines, cyclotrons, particle accelerators. And they take a little particle of matter and they accelerate it to the speed of light, almost. And they smash it into another particle so they can break it into many pieces, thinking that somewhere in there they will find the ultimate, smallest particle of matter. And they never find it. Do you know why? Because here's what happens. Every time they think they find the smallest particle, they look and there's something else there. something else is there. The reason that we will probably never find the smallest particle, and the reason that we will probably never find the edge of the universe, is because of what John Wheeler says. He says the act of us searching, the act of the human heart and the human mind looking at the universe, expecting to see something, will always create something for us to see. The act of us looking with the expectation that something is there is an act of creation unto itself. Does that make sense to you? This is important. This is important to you. Think about this. I invite you to think about this. If looking with the expectation that something exists is what creates that something, then what does it mean when you are conditioned to look at your body, to search your body every day or every week, looking for something to be wrong, looking for an abnormality, looking for a lump, looking for a discoloration? You know what I'm talking about, right? I'm not saying don't look. What I'm suggesting is it's your consciousness while you are looking that is important. What happens if you look at your body in the mirror every day and you say, beautiful body? And that is an act of creation. Can you see how that is different than if you look in your body for a lump or something that should not be there? Does that make sense? Very, very powerful, what John Wheeler is saying. This is a scientist saying that consciousness is creating our physical universe. The question is, if feeling and consciousness is creating, what is it that we feel? What do we believe about our world? The new discoveries suggest that the power to change our bodies and to change our world is based in what we call belief. Belief. Our belief of what is real. We live our lives based in what we believe about our world. Would you agree with that? We live our lives based on what we believe about, about ourselves, our world, one another, our limitations, our capabilities. I was trained as a scientist. When I began to understand that we live our lives based upon our beliefs, my question is, where do those beliefs come from? And what I found is that those beliefs come from what other people tell us. The beliefs come from what history tells us, what science tells us, what religion tells us, what our culture, what our family, our friends tell us. That's where our beliefs come from. Would you agree with that? So let me ask a question. What if they're wrong? What if they're wrong? What if you and I are living our lives in the beliefs of other people who are incorrect? What does that mean for us? How powerful do you think a belief really is? How powerful, truly? There's an author. His name was Neville in the early 20th century. He wrote a book called The Power of Awareness, a beautiful book. And what Neville said was this. He said that our power of belief is a power, an infinite power against which no earthly force is of the slightest significance. Our power of belief is an infinite power against which no earthly force is of the slightest significance. Do you believe that you have a power within you against which no earthly force is of the slightest significance? Is that possible? Do you believe that? Let me show you some examples. Let me share some examples of miracles You've all heard these stories before. You've heard stories of miracles. This is a story of a woman who lifted a car 20 times her body weight to free a person who was trapped underneath the car in an accident. You've heard stories like this. She freed this person. She went to the hospital with this person. She waited in the waiting room. The doctor came out and said, "This man will live because you lifted the car and saved his life." And when she heard the words that described what she did, she passed out. Unconscious. Because she had done something that even she couldn't believe. She wasn't thinking about it. All she said, "I just knew I had to get him free, and there was no one else around at the time." We have to understand what a belief is. We talk about belief. What is a belief? Belief is the marriage. It is a union of thought and emotion. Thought and emotion. And now we have to define thought and emotion. This is an image from an ancient Sanskrit text. It shows the energy centers of the body, the chakras. I know you all are familiar with chakras. They say that thought happens in the upper chakras, right here. This is thought. This is where we imagine the quantum possibility. The emotion happens in the creative center, in the lower chakras. This is emotion. And they say our emotions are only two: love and fear. Love and the opposite of love. So when we think a thought in our mind, we fuel that thought. We give our thought life through the love or the fear that we place into the thought. And when we do that, we create a feeling. And now we have a definition for feeling. Feeling is the union, the marriage of emotion and thought. What we think of a possibility and our love or our fear of that thought. Does that make sense? Is that good? This is important because we're going to use this. Does this make sense? Okay? What is the one energy center in the body that does not have the circle? What is the one center that we have not talked about here? Precisely, the heart. Feeling happens in our heart. Feeling doesn't happen in the mind. Feeling doesn't happen in the lower, well, a little bit, but not much in the lower centers. Feeling happens in our heart. Feeling and belief are connected. Feeling and belief. So in our hearts, we have hate, sadness, joy, compassion. These are feelings. These are not emotions. To have hate, sadness, joy, compassion, we must have a thought, and then the love or the fear for that thought that creates these feelings. So now we have a definition of feeling. Feeling is the union of thought and emotion. You're going to see this in a 2,000-year-old text this afternoon. Exactly the same thing. So our belief translates the quantum possibilities that we imagine into the physical reality of our world. And I want to show you how. I want to show you how that happens. I don't want you just to believe me, to take my word. I want to show you the proof so your mind can see the proof. Belief is what translates those possibilities into the atoms of our world. The quantum possibility exists as waves only. But this world is made of atoms. So I think you're going to like what you're going to see.
So thought, feeling, and emotions, all right, and beliefs and stuff, and how the world and universe works. Like, it's a bit old and stuff. This isn't aimed to be very advanced and things like that, or get into the too much of the negative stuff. It's what I'm offering here is that the mechanics of our emotions and stuff, of taking on what goes on in the world and transmuting into a positive life force benefit. Because I've got what I'm getting to in the future releases is the components to actually help that, right? So the reason why I'm bringing up emotional mastery now, particularly relative to a lot of the information events going on in our world, there's a huge opportunity to have a consequence energetically, nutritionally, and life force, from the life force perspective. But then what I'm wanting to do with this sort of mini-series in the emotional mastery series is that what if we can actually take what's coming at us that previously we had a negative reaction to by our default programming and operating system, that if we actually take responsibility for and we engage with our body tech in a different level, that not only can we defend against it, we can actually take what's coming at us as nourishment. All right? Have you ever contemplated that? I would say that you probably feel that we can and stuff, but how do we do it? And that's where I was hitting the books during the week and last couple of weeks and stuff, and I came across the mechanics of how to actually do that, which are quite straightforward and stuff, but we have to really be brutally honest about ourselves. And the other thing is, while I feel it's very poetic that I'm come to that appreciation now, I really want to take a bit of responsibility of the stuff I've offered as well. Because the thing is, all the information I offer, and say I do missions and stuff like that, I'm not trying to show you that I'm an exception to you or anything like that, or I'm bad or anything. I'm just doing what I'm doing, and this is all happening, and I'm being fortunate in my choices that I've made, that I've been able to be very, choices that came out of crisis that had negative consequence in my life and stuff that led to this. But right now I'm in a very pure, uncommitted state where I can commit to this, and not only that, I'm thriving in it with, say, my healing modality and stuff like that, which I would invite, the energy hygiene and the sovereignty components are primary from my perspective to gaining emotional mastery in this world, because there's a lot, and I'm not really wanting to get into the negative aspects out there, but there's a lot of, say, the energy hygiene stuff that might go around your head that actually is like a mirror around your head that's reflecting and broadcasting all the negative emotional states. So maybe you're going through a lot of emotional crises and unable to find that equilibrium, like I said, with the mechanics of the body, and maybe you're in tough scenarios that, getting good food and all that is tough, which compound everything. But I would offer, you might, even, like I said, tuning into me, what I've offered and stuff, and discerning me, and that you might have negative perceptions about that, but I would invite that a lot of the variables going on out there are actually to keep you where you're at, to keep you in an inactive state, in a paralyzed, potentially fear state of everything is bad and stuff like that, when actually the solution is the thing you might be most polarized to, because something is benefiting from you being in that state that doesn't want you free of them. And that can be entities and emotional energy hygiene and stuff like that, right? And that's where you've got to discern whether, there's a potential of exploring stuff that's beyond me and that. But what I'm wanting to do here is take responsibility a bit for the information I've offered, because there might be a tendency for a lot of you guys out there, humbleness and lack. A lot of us that, were just never found out like the right path in the spiritual community or all that. We've probably engaged with a lot of the undercover beings that I offered in the last video about how the political and negative aspect of the spiritual community, particularly the good workers, are working together to create an aspect of control and busting them. Like, I got a lot of pushback from that, alright? But the responsibility aspect I'm wanting to offer here is that perhaps there is a tendency for a lot of you guys to feel inadequate about what's going on. It's like, oh shit, this is far superior to me, I can't do shit about it, blah blah blah, I'm such a inadequate, even going into victim of it all and stuff like that. But the responsibility aspect I'm taking is that we've never known this stuff, and so to me it's like gaining the context of what is going on is very potent, because then if we have a foundation to launch from, we can do something about it with the truth as a foundation, where in my opinion the vast majority of stuff out there, it's a lot of it's cliche and repeated by people, but it doesn't actually, it's not solution orientated, it's just repeating the stuff that is accepted in the community and people, because it's marketed like it's, you know, a brand like Coca-Cola. People know what Coca-Cola is and the drink and stuff. So when people use the linguistics that are repeated that is marketed as being spiritual, then you feel, you know, like if I employed linguistics that are used by the community, then it might get a bigger audience and accepted, whereas I'm actually going against it. And so the absence of I just wanting to offer those sort of mechanics, like, because at the end of the day there's actually a lot going on that isn't fair and it may be affecting us, but this sort of series, I'm going to invite you, we can actually use it as nourishment. All right, we can actually transmute it in a way that is actually a benefit to us, because us organic to this universe and earth and stuff, we have the edge. All right, there's a lot of variables that aren't welcome here that are on borrowed time. All right, and they're operating, doing a lot of the negative stuff. And so if everything is on our side, all right, like I said in the last video, all of this stuff going on and being done to us and wanting control in that, if we were inferior, why would they need to do it, right? So if we have the courage to accept that we are superior, how do we engage that? And being able to transmute everything coming at us and turn it into a nourishment, hello, you know? But I offered that Greg Braden clip of just be brutally honest of how you've accepted a lot of the stuff. Say, particularly if you've been around me for a while and accepted that, have you engaged yourself as being inadequate to it? All right? Are we a victim to all this stuff and that? To me, like the victim state, it opens up our energy field to being violated and stuff. And I talked about the fear emotions and the love emotions, right? And the effect on the body. And do you really feel like you can control the effect of things that come at you information-wise on your body, all right? So I just offer there's a lot of potential in those sort of things, all right? And if you take on board the Greg Braden clip, and I'll offer more Greg Braden clips in the future, there's the narratives and the context created by design. This world is aimed, the aspects of the world that are in control and stuff that most of us don't even know that are going on, want us to feel inadequate and insecure, and you know, they want us to actually go into those states that we're entertaining, all right? And that's where the contrarian view sort of kicks in, is like we can actually determine the fate of our journey in all this. Not only that, like when I'm going to get to the main stuff of this, all right, how we can actually transmute everything into a life force nourishing gift, all right? It's just a matter of how do we in the moment take on what comes at us, a bit like that metaphor of what I said about burning ourselves, right? So then what it translates to is our psychic defense, all right? So one of the things I've talked about is I feel very, you know, the effort I put into, say, my pranic healing and stuff, of being able to heal myself, right? You know, there's this concept out there that we can't heal ourselves, we need other people to heal us, and it's like, frack that. I know me the best I know me, and I know my body the best out of anywhere on the universe. It knows my body. So why can't I be the best at knowing me? Why can't I be the best healer of me? Those are sort of things like, where do we get that shit from, right? And so me in my journey of a metaphor, and it's not about me, it's just I'm an example, is like I invested heavily into my own healing you know, like you learn the modality and stuff, but you work hard at it. And it might be like a real slow parabolic thing that I showed in the metaphor of that. I might just show it quick, right? This is that image relative to how we win and stuff. But the green line is like the investment into us relative to healing. It's like this is a metaphor of much, right? Like at the start, the red line might be an emotional resistance to ourselves, accepting ourselves. But after a while, you start making progress, and then you get beyond your limits, and you thrive, right? So just imagine with psychic defense, right? You might not believe in yourself, right? But then you invest in yourself, and then you get beyond it, and you're able to repair yourself. And then instead of being defensive and feel inferior to things, you thrive, and you trust that you have the ability to overcome things. And then you may need to fall back to other healers and stuff, right? But that's a metaphor, alright? So I'll just move on. So this is another metaphor, alright? So the one at the top is how the world is. There's good and bad. Not having the context of what's going on, like I say. The risk that I've had in sharing what I share is that you may feel inadequate because the vastness of what we're up against are the big red variables, and we don't even know what the red variables are. So a lot of people are just smashed by the reality, beaten up by it. And there's a lot of players out there that are superior, and they're working with allies, like I said about the Trojan horses, the species and stuff that sort of we've been busting and kicking their ass and stuff. So the second and middle option is you go into fear state, right? And what does fear have an effect on your perception? Well, fear is a life force cost, so the number of variables that you can discern in that state is very minimal, right? And so there's a lot of perceptions that you might let go through the catcher or the keeper, so to speak, because you don't have the vista of self-trust to be able to discern each variable. So you lock yourself down into a limited state, right? And that's where a lot of people are. But the bottom one is if you're in, what if you're able to transmute all the negative coming at you and make it a life force nourishing benefit, okay? And this translates to the psychic defense. Then you're not so much worried about the negative. You're worried about, it's not even a worry, you're excited about what you can grow, what you can benefit, what you can perceive, and trust your ability to defend, or if you get hit, then recover from the hits, alright? So this is where the emotional mastery kicks in, alright? This is why emotional mastery is so significant as well, because it is a vital ingredient of the emotion you feel relative to data and variables and people and situations. And what I'm saying about getting spooked and stuff, right? It opens you up to compromise, and then something might get through, and then it actually corrupts you, and then it might, you know, that's where I say the difference between groups 15 years ago to now, it's like this is weaponized at a whole new level. And if you're on this path, let's say the pure source path, it's such a original concept at the moment, and that originality from my perspective is the solution to all that's going on, and so that solution may be a threat. So then, you know, the efforts to derail you go exponential, and then it all comes back to all this to be better than it, right? So a lot of people, you know, you might get interested in this sort of path that I've offered and stuff, and then you get into it and it's like beneficial, but then you get smashed, right? And that's why I have to be a bit like Yoda in Empire Strikes Back and allow people to go through experience to gain the wisdom of actually getting smashed and then resolving their smashing to come out a lot wiser in the end, alright? Because experience is the key to wisdom, and I offer that in our Intuitive Potential Part 3. Because unless you're in it, you don't know, right? And getting spooked, you imagine spooked, there's a visceral reaction, so your emotional body separates from you, right? I might just show another image quick. So just imagine you go into a spook state because you're in a fear that opens up your field and stuff can get inserted, right? And then how does that affect your emotional state? So unfortunately, a lot of people are yet to really master emotions, especially in those real challenging coal fire furnace times of when everything's on the line and you've got to be something different than what you've ever been before. All right? So this is just a metaphor to say the emotional body layer, things can get inserted that go at your mind, all right? And then what happens to your perception of other people, all right? So I've talked about the Oversoul hack and life force harvest, kundalini harvest, and code harvest and stuff like that to limit you, all right? All of these things go on. But I would just offer, it goes back to like, this stuff wouldn't need to be done if you're inferior to everything going on, all right? So what's that sweet spot that we can get to? And emotional mastery is very, very foundational to that. And even if you flip your emotions, like you play with it like the contrarian view, then you can actually undo all this stuff and you can pop it out, all right? So what it all comes down to is that in any moment, any second, despite anything going on, we do have a choice of how we react to it, how we appreciate it, and what we feel in it. And to me, like, feeling is a very potent well of our life force nourishment on a good and bad side. You know, if you go into those fear states that have a cost, then you can get deflated and your life force can get grounded down, all right? And I'll just show you another image quick. I haven't shown this for a while. This is like the metaphor of our journey, all right? Because what it comes down to me is like our peak awareness time. Just think how much you've invested, whether it's other healers or books or interests and all that. What it comes down to me, it comes down to maximizing that peak awareness era of our lives, all right? And there's good and bad that go on and all sorts of stuff. We can't always control all the events around us, but we can improve, become better, and ultimately it would be ideal that we master how we are affected by things that go on around us. And there might be that era of challenge where we'd have to test the waters, so to speak. You have to put ourselves into uncomfortable situations and trust people and all this sort of stuff. There might be negative outcomes, but ideally we grow from wisdom of experience, right? And then ultimately the potency of our peak awareness time is absolute. And I would just offer, with my information of what I've offered and stuff, there's a component that may result in the way people feel about it is totally inadequate, right? This is too vast, I'm insecure, I'm insignificant, all these sort of states, and then I'm born into all these things, I've got these variables around me, it's not what I ideally should have or want and that, but the variables that we can control are the ones to focus on, right? And we may be at a massive disadvantage, there may be massive injustices done to us, we may be in regions of the world that don't have the allies, or you know, the community is very corrupted and targets people, and most people don't have the fortitude or the investment to invest in healers or do any healing or have the courage to take personal responsibility and change their nutrition and, you know, not believe stuff, or discipline in the foods they eat and all this sort of stuff, or appreciate all the angles that we can take control of, right? Because we ideally want to be in a system that does take care of us, you know, that wants our betterment. And there is a lot in this world that does. But I would just offer, one of the most precious things that we have is that peak awareness time. So just feel like how much you've invested and how much you've had to overcome to get that, and how maybe you haven't realized that that is a valuable asset of yours, of all that investment you made to get to this level. And then if you value it, like, you guard it. But the thing is, you don't guard it with fear of like getting smashed in, and then don't try and justify an action. You just understand that out of everything you can actually handle things better. And what I'm going to get into as I've alluded to in the future releases of this series, and I'll look to get into it soon, right? That we can actually take everything that comes to us and transmute it into a life force gear, right? So just think of all the stuff going on in the world at the moment, wherever you are. There's certain narrative things that seem to be like hope, change and all that, and battlegrounds and all that. I would offer that there's those sort of recipes to the reality that are going to be constant, and certain players are going to be in the media and all that sort of stuff, but then there'll be other events that ideally you'll see the pattern of the truth that the system wants to keep you in a emotional state, right, that justifies inaction and actually probably feeds it, right? So if it creates a certain belief in you, then what are you contributing to that by the manifestation tech that is in all of us, right? So I would offer, like, getting back to it, is like the difference between active and passive. So the vast majority of people are in a passive manifestation of all this. What's the potential of us if we engage our 22 sovereignty, energy, hygiene, mastery in an active state of appreciating all this and actually everything going on that we can actually transmute into a life force benefit? It becomes infinite and perpetual, alright? And I'll show you the other image. Then it all contributes to our potency of bringing this about, right? So it's interesting to contemplate, hey, right? So just to finish off, just really contemplate about your emotional mastery of things relative to the information I've brought, relative to how beaten up I might have been and stuff like that, of what I've had to go through to offer all the stuff and that. How has all that affected you? Plus all the other stuff out there, right? Are you in an uncertain, inadequate state? Have you experienced fear? Have you been affected by the unhygienic reality that we're in? You know, have you yearned for being in groups and stuff like that, or have you managed to maintain your self-focus and self-mastery and embraced many things and grown and stuff, right? These are all interesting, right? But what if those negative red dots we can transmute into green dots that are nourishment, right? So I just really invite you to be brutally honest of where you've been and where you're at and what you've done and what you've chosen not to do out of fear or anything like that. And maybe some things out there are making you feel that don't want you to have progress, and maybe there are people out there that can help clear those sort of things, and you can gain an experience of the wisdom of the other side of all of this sort of stuff, right? Or maybe you've gone into fear, maybe you've retreated, and maybe your perceptions aren't working like they are, and maybe you're being caught up and all sorts of stuff. But I would just invite you to apply it relative to the information I've offered and stuff, and maybe other people out there. You're not insignificant, right? You're vast, and we just haven't been supplied the right context for things, right? So if we have the context, then what's the truth? How obvious is the truth, right? So many things, right? So I just thought this time now, leading up to what's coming on, is a very rich time to refocus on the emotional mastery. And I apologize, I haven't offered the clip. I might offer a little clip that I'll offer at the end right now, relative to the teachings I'm going to offer, that might offer you some motivation in this, and look forward to hearing the other releases, alright? So I thank you for being here. I thank you for the courage to exploring my stuff and anything else in the community that you've explored. I thank you for all the battles that you've been through that no one knows about, that you've overcome. Maybe you've been caught up with. Maybe you've done the right thing that's had consequence in your life, but you're not someone that justifies doing negative stuff for benefit. I would just invite that all of those things, that recipe of who you are, of doing the right thing no matter what, they sort of haven't probably paid off. They might have had costs, that I would offer that, working with the unknown, that you being authentic and honourable and operating with dignity when everyone else is getting away with it, that's going to be our edge, alright? That's going to be your edge. And so if you come across very highly potent, highly aware, highly intuitive people, then they're going to see that truth in you, and it's going to be the edge that's going to allow you in when others won't, right? So don't justify doing anything just because everyone else might be getting away with it. You operate with honor as you always have. Don't compromise yourself and feel like you can sleep peacefully at night because you always do the right thing, right? So I hope you get good sleep. I hope you look forward to what I'm going to offer in the future of this, because I think this is going to be a very potent theme right now for all of us, all right? And just a reminder of like, it's emotional mastery is a foundation to all of our potential, and maybe you can do it better, you know, or just put the focus on it in an active mode and not so much a passive mode, and invest in these things that I say and you'll get the life force benefit back, right? But the future releases in this theme will be how to transmute certain events, all right, to our benefit, to our nourishment, so we can thrive through all the chaos that's probably going to be escalating even more, all right? So I thank you for being here, all that you've endured to get to now, and I hope this is a very potent release, and the future ones will be as well, all right? So best of luck, guys. The Brat from Down Under now, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.
Well, I don't think anybody is going to live their life without experiencing sudden shock.
That's right. And of course, another thing we like to say is that denial is one of the very worst ways of handling it of all. Mm-hmm. Because if you deny it, you will never get rid of it. It will still be there forever and ever.
Mm-hmm. Of course, you know, you gave me a, I don't know, a 6, a 7, an 8. What if the shock were really excruciating? Could it be handled the same way?
Well, yes, it will be handled. It could be handled the same way. Now, of course, in workshop situations right here, we don't want to do anything terrible.
Yeah.
There was one person at one of our workshops that said, well, this exercise is not really all that serious, because what if a Bengal tiger appeared in this room? I said, I'm really sorry, I can't provide you with a Bengal tiger, but I can provide you with a sudden hit like this. Yeah. And this, again, is metaphorical. It's simply symbolic of a deeper hit.
But in your Aikido training, there are broken bones occasionally.
Definitely. Mm-hmm. And we definitely use that exercise again and again and again. Mm-hmm. In other words, I've used that in my own life on numerous occasions. On one occasion where a really terrible professional blow came to me, the worst of my career. And it just so happened that I got that phone call as I was leaving for Esalen to give a workshop in which I knew I'd be giving this exercise. Oh. And Jeffrey, you've often heard the statement that teachers often need teachers. Mm-hmm. Sometimes the teachers don't do their own work. I might have failed to do it, except I was headed for Esalen. And so it took me 4 hours in my car as I drove down to process this event. And what I did was use the exercise, my own exercise. Mm-hmm. And by the time I got there, I was so filled with energy that I went to the telephone and not only dealt with this one problem, but changed my entire life. And it's just not time, it wouldn't be appropriate to go through all the details of it. Yeah. But literally, Jeffrey, I had the energy to change my entire life. I was kind of stuck on the dime, as they said there. I was stuck at that moment.
Well, I hear you
and
coming.
That gave me the extra energy.
Really from the heart with this. You're not.
That's right. It's real. Uh-huh. This exercise is very, very real. And although we're just grabbing the arm now, I hope that everybody can understand, and hope you understand, that this symbolizes any kind of hit. We wouldn't want to do anything more devastating than this in a workshop situation. Yeah. Or here on television. Mm-hmm. I don't want to hit you or anything.
Surprise, George.
Right. Of course, some of the people we get that feel that they don't feel it at all, we can always find ways to get around that and find a shock a little further, a little beyond that one, but we won't do that here.
Mm-hmm. Well, we all, I suppose, have, you know, certain thickness of skin, a certain way of just warding off the world. And the idea of this process, I gather, is to get underneath that.
Exactly. And by doing the process repeatedly, you're not quite so vulnerable to sudden shocks, and yet you still can use them. Mm-hmm. There is nobody against whom some shock won't have a tremendous effect. Yeah. Even the most armored person can be shocked. Yeah. And again, we see that there's a possibility of rather than denying, of acknowledging, and you can get much more out of it.
And perhaps dropping some of our armor.
Absolutely. You can go around a lot with a lot more confidence with this exercise.
That was a great process.
Thank you.
The sun is gonna keep on shining, brighter days on the horizon. My love for you will always keep on rising. Everything's gonna be alright tonight. Oh yeah, my love for you is gonna keep on rising. The sun's gonna keep on shining, bright days on the horizon. My love for you will keep on rising. Everything's gonna be alright. The sun's gonna keep on shining, bright days on the horizon. My love for you will keep on rising. Everything's gonna be
swimming in December, heading for the city lights. 975, we sharing each other, nearer than farther. Scent of the lemon drips from your eyes. We are the people that rule the world, what's running in every boy and girl, all rejoicing in the world. Take me now, we can drive a little adventure, love.
John Lilly once put it this way: there are no limits at all to the human mind whatsoever, except those we impose on ourselves because of our beliefs. And those limits are also beliefs to be transcended. And that's a view that suggests that the possibilities of human transformation are virtually infinite. And we have no way of knowing the outer horizon of what it means to be human.
And really, to understand all this, everything, you have to go very, very deep into a study of history, consciousness, neurophysiology, everything. You have to be the supreme eclectic type of leaning, and you really have to be wanting to know who you are and what everything's about.
And the thing that you'll find when you go to sacred sites, if you're very humble about it, is that you are on a personal journey, and the sacred site will respond to you in a way that is appropriate only to you. The information is always what you are searching for. And it's the intent you give that energy that defines whether it is used for right action or not. And it is inside these sacred spaces that you will be reminded that you are a god, that you are a bright star.
So what you're trying to do is move through the course without ricocheting off walls or creating karma. You're trying to slide through things smoothly. How do you do that? It's called flowing. There's a technique that you can do that will allow you to touch some part of your inner being that has more knowledge than your conscious state does.